It works well like this.
All right, good evening. I have 6 o'clock. Today is December 20th, 2022. We are in the boardroom. At this time, if we can convene our meeting with roll call, please.
McIntyre?
Here.
Peter?
Here.
DeCook?
Here. We do have a quorum. If you'd all kindly rise for the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, are there any agenda deletions or corrections? I have 2 on the consent agenda. Both D and I are removed. Are there any other ones? Seeing none, our first item today is the consent agenda. All items listed under the consent agenda will be enacted by one motion. Claims, we have a claims figure of $909,226.01. B, approve payroll removal. Shelley Wakeman, Clerk, Auditor's Office, effective November 17, 2022. C, approve payroll removal. Tiffany Rhodes, Detention Officer, Sheriff's Office, effective December 1st, 2022. E, approve new hire Rebecca Miller, Dispatcher, Sheriff's Office, effective December 19, 2022. F, approve new hire Cale Billheimer, Dispatcher, Sheriff's Office, effective December 19, 2022. G, approve new hire Hannah Hernandez, Naturalist Conservation, effective December 19, 2022. H, approve 6-month increase Sarah Downard, General Assistance Coordinator, effective December 1st, 2022. J, approve Monday, January 2 as a paid holiday. And K, approve Class C retail alcohol license for Somerset Winery. Do we have a motion on the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda as read.
Second.
Any discussion from the board? Seeing none, roll call, please.
McIntyre?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
DeCook?
Aye. Motion carries. Number 2 is revisiting the public hearing for tabled item for the Bourbon Group, LLC, 34534 Moffett Lake Road, Cumming, Iowa, 50061. Owner of the property in question is Dale and Linda Webb, 22905 Buchanan Trail, Hartford, Iowa, 50118, for a proposed rezoning from A1 Agricultural District to C2 General Commercial Highway Service District. Hello.
Hi. Tonight's meeting is a continuation of the public hearing that was held on December 1st, 2022 for the Bourbon Group LLC rezoning application from A1 to C2 of Parcel L. The public hearing portion was held and closed on December 1st, 2022. Discussion was held by the supervisors, and you had asked for legal clarification as to whether the restriction placed on the rezoning of Parcel C, previously owned by Dale and Linda Webb, Webb's RV Park, rezoned in January of 2020, would apply to Parcel L that is currently owned by Bourbon Group. Dawn Bowman, Assistant County Attorney, provided a legal opinion to you regarding this issue. Her opinion is that the rezoning and restrictions are limited to the property now known as Parcel C. The rezoning was specific to the legal description property in the Webb's application and in the resolution. The restriction on expansion applies only to parcel C, and that the only property contemplated for rezoning at the hearing held on December 12th, 2019, and to January 21st of 2020. Other submissions received after the public hearing on December 1st, 2022 were letters from Adam Van Dyke of Brown Winnick Law representing Mr. Bervin, emails from Elaine, Paul, and Connor Hansen, Theron Connery, Rachel Hirschman, and Derek Beverin. You should have received copies and emails in your packets this week.
Okay. Thank you, Miranda. So at this point, what we have is we had a public hearing on December 1st. That public hearing was open and closed on December 1st, but I understand that we've got folks in the audience today that may not have caught that nuance, that we technically do not have to do an additional public hearing, but I'm not holding that against you. And so at this point, I am going to make a motion to go into public hearing, and anyone who would like to comment thereon, you have 3 minutes, which will be a hard 3 minutes to make your remarks known. Please come up, state your name, your address, and I just think that's equitable. So I made a motion to go into public. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Discussion from the board? We technically don't have to do that, but I feel as though people came out tonight. It's about 0 degrees, and if you want to be heard, I'm happy to hear you. So we've got a motion, we've got a second. Roll call vote, please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
Jacob.
Aye. We are in public hearing. If anyone would like to comment, please come up, state your name, your address. 3 minutes, though.
I'll try to be more succinct than 3 minutes. Theron Connery, 22167 Carpenter Street, Hartford, Iowa. Hearing the zoning, the lawyers come back and say that this is not applicable to this particular parcel. That makes sense. The zoning of this particular parcel probably should be looked at as its own individual item. However, if you look back to the reasoning that you said that this campground should not expand, it was not specific to that parcel. It was specific to the neighborhood. There are the roads, the infrastructure, the water, the traffic, the safety, the garbage that's left, all of these things come with that campground. And as that campground expands, that infrastructure that supports that neighborhood has not grown. So while the campground itself may not have these things or want to be able to grow to add additional campsites, the reason that you, the three of you, restricted that site to 100 sites was not because it was an RV park, was not because it was a campground, was not because they were cabins. Iowa code covers all of those collectively as a single unit, and there's no distinction between the three of them. So my hope is that when you go to look at this, while you may look at this as a distinct, separate condition or a piece of ground, that you look at the intent behind your already made decision of why you didn't want more people safely held back in that space where they can't get out, affecting city services, affecting volunteer fire departments, affecting the road conditions and traffic in that area. It was not just that parcel. It was the volume of people out there. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Cheryl Rawson, 22325 Carpenter Street, Hartford, Iowa. And thank you for allowing to speak again. So I know that I emailed all three of you this morning. Hopefully you received my email with my concerns. I'm not going to reiterate all of those. I do want to just reiterate what Theron touched on, especially when it comes to the safety in our emergency services. You know, when at the last meeting, I told you a couple of incidents that I had personally on the road. But I also want to bring that, we have had numerous accidents out there that has required life flight to come and land, typically in a field. So, our farmers are being impacted by this. Last fall, a field was caught on fire by someone from the campground throwing a match or a cigarette, or I don't know what it was. But there was numerous fire departments that were there trying to battle this fire. There has been, there's been fences taken out, fence posts taken out, some serious injuries on this road and they've all been from the people from the campground. The second thing is, the permanent residents that live out there. The school bus goes down there, picks up kids every day. These people are living there year-round, have standalone propane tanks. I don't believe that is allowed. I'm not sure. I'm not an attorney. I don't know the Iowa law, Iowa code, don't pretend to. But, they're living there, not paying taxes. Perfect place for criminals to hide, We have small children in the neighborhood. Do we have sex offenders living down there? Like, who lives there? I don't know. We've talked a little bit about the sewage and the water, and there is no dumping station at that campground for campers to dump. They're black and gray tanks. We have witnessed campers driving down the gravel road with their black and gray tanks open, dumping along the road all the way to the highway. This is concerning, and we have numerous accounts of that happening because there is no dumping station. So I will close, probably over my 3 minutes, but those, in addition to everything I sent you this morning, are our concerns. We just respectfully ask you to deny this rezone.
Thank you.
Hello, good evening. Will Reesner with the Dickinson Law Firm, 699 Walnut Street, Suite 1600 in Des Moines. I represent Brian and Cheryl Ross, and I as well sent an email to each of you this afternoon, and I don't blame you if you've not had the chance to read through all of that, but I just want to hit on some of the highlights. A proposed campground like this would be subject under the ordinances to a special use permit, and that's not what's in front of you today, but the considerations on what goes into a special use permit are the same factors that you should consider in whether rezoning is appropriate in the first place. 3 of those considerations are whether the use would unduly increase congestion in the streets or public danger of fire and safety. You've already heard about the congestion, you've already heard about safety concerns. Expanding that use is going to unduly increase that. Another factor is that it shall not diminish or impair established property values in adjoining or surrounding property. Ms. Ross, and I know she's emailed you with concerns that this is going to decrease her property value, and I agree. And then finally, that the use would need to be in accordance with the intent, purpose, and spirit of both the zoning ordinance and the comprehensive land use plan. The land use plan that I was able to find on the Warren County website it is pretty clear in its overall priorities in terms of protecting agricultural land, and it recognizes that there's some tension between the need to develop and the need to protect land, but it's clear that the need to protect agricultural land is high. If you look at, in this plan, what a general commercial zone and a highway commercial zone look like, they both contemplate that they're near paved intersections or near highway intersections. One of the policies to protect under that plan is to promote new commercial and industrial development under the following conditions: adequate roads, adequate water and wastewater facilities, and that is compatible with the existing residential development. You're going to hear more of the facts, how this affects people, but I'd like you to consider what they are sharing with their concerns and how that relates to the overall plan for the county as well as the zoning ordinances. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, I'm Joanne Mendenhall. I live at 3557 215th Avenue, Hartford, Iowa. And my husband and I are farmers. We have cattle. We have a tractor we have out on the road delivering hay to our cattle. We live almost to the corner of Clark Street, which, if you've been there, is a very hard pin curve. It is a blind curve. It is not something you should go around at 50 miles an hour. We have multiple people flying around that corner all the time, campers or not. Some of those vehicles I know are from the campground, and they have no consideration for the fact they're coming up to a farm. I've had to scurry out of the road on more than enough occasions to count. That is a very big concern to me. I don't want myself to be injured, my husband. I don't want our equipment to be injured, and God forbid a cow gets out. I don't want the liability of them ending up hitting them because they came around that corner way too fast. So those are concerns for us. Additionally, the amount of trash left in our ditch as a result of the extra traffic is a concern. I don't like having to pick it up all the time. So those are just some of our concerns to do with it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Members of the board, I'm Adam Van Dyke, Brown Linnick Law Firm, 666 Grand Avenue, Des Moines, Iowa. It's my understanding you had quite a discussion already regarding some of these issues earlier in December, so I'm not going to rehash that, but there evidently was maybe some discussion regarding and I did a letter, and so I'm not going to repeat everything I said in my letter, but basically there was some discussion regarding the legalities and how the restrictions on a neighboring parcel and how they affect what we're talking about tonight. My letter, and then also Don Bowman, the county attorney's letter, I think described to you that, those are limited to that parcel, not the one we're talking about tonight. So I just would like the board to, I'm just rehashing that. All these other considerations, you guys know as the board of supervisors that you look into all these various things that have been brought up tonight, traffic, et cetera, and that's for you to decide. Those, in my opinion, are not legal issues. Those are just issues that you guys need to take a look at, and you're more than welcome to do that. I'm not going to discuss those at this point. However, I just do want to let the board know that my client, Derek Bervin, is well aware that a rezoning is subject to all the legal requirements in your local ordinance, Iowa code, federal code, everything that he has to do to run his operation, whether it's the current RV park or his new facility, which is not going to be an RV park, that we need to follow the law. And if there's anything going out there as far as trash being dumped or other things that, clearly those are not things that are okay, we're subject to whatever the already rules that are in place. And we intend to follow those and let our customers know that they need to follow those as well. And I think it's going to be a nice project that he's operating on. Mr. Bervin's here if there's any specific questions as to exactly what he's going to be doing or how things are being taken care of. He'd be more than happy to come up here and address the board at this time. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Van Dyke.
Hello, Eileen Hansen, 22076 Carpenter Street, and that's Hartford. And so I have also sent an email and you all have that in your possession, so not going to rehash that. Just a few of the items that I did want to specifically point out about that is a lot of the things that Cheryl has pointed out as far as the vandalism, the trespassing, and so forth. So one of the things you might hear from some folks is, well, how do we know these are folks at the campgrounds? How would we know that? Well, we know that because those individuals are down at the boat ramp on golf carts. I don't know any of my neighbors that have golf carts. So I can then make the assumption that those folks have come from the campground on their golf carts. So therefore, and we've seen, again, numerous things. I'm to the point that when I walk down the road, I wear neon so that I have to make sure that everybody can see me. I make my son Connor wear neon when he goes out running. And that's something, I get it is a road, but still, it's a gravel road, so we shouldn't be ripping around on there. So, in addition to what I have sent, those are just some of my specific examples in how we understand that those are the folks that are actually, who are having these behaviors, so. And that is the additional items I wanted to point out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheryl Russin, 22325 Carpenter Street, Hartford, to touch base on Mr. Bourbon's attorney's comment about, we understand, like you do, you tell your campers, you can't do this, you can't go here, you can't do that. My experience is people do whatever they want to do, regardless of what they're told to do, and they do. Mr. Bourbon does not live in the area, and that's concerning to me as well. Like, who is going to be on site? Who's running the day-to-day operations? Who is going to be there to even witness anything if it does happen? That's a concern. Thank you.
Welcome.
Good evening. Derek Bourbon, 34534 Moffett Lake Road, Cumming, Iowa. Thanks for being here tonight. To address some of the unlawful behavior that has occurred in the past, sorry, fighting a little bit of a bug here. Obviously, I'm not going to stand for that. To address the last comment, I do have on-site management who live on the property. They're there every day. They drive through the property multiple times a day to make sure that things are running as I've intended. I have modified my terms and conditions, which every camper has to sign before they can check in, which would, if they violate those terms and conditions, they're immediately ejected from the park and not issued a refund. And those terms are no littering, we have a lot of rules, but no trespassing, no leaving park property outside of the normal, egress and ingress roads. So none of that is going to be allowed. I'm going to mark off all the property boundaries so that it's very clear where the park boundaries are, so that it's well known. One of my biggest desires with this park is to turn it into more of a family-friendly type of environment. And the biggest limiting factor right now is that there aren't enough things for kids to do. There's a little playground, which has a lot of limitations. There's septic nearby, so that expansion is limited. And I've heard that from other people in the area that, it's a cool place, but there's nowhere for my kids to do anything, so we don't actually use it. So the big motivation with this new property is to add those amenities that, over the next, 3 to 5 years probably, get things like the pool, the mini golf course, things that kids would really like to do. And I think the side effect of that will be safer roads, slower traveling vehicles, things of that nature, less vandalism. If that, I obviously can't speak to the past and how the previous owner ran it, but obviously I would not allow that, but certainly families would be less likely to engage in those activities. And that's really what I want to see for this park. So obviously the rezoning is critical because there's no room for expansion, and that was the whole motivation behind buying this other parcel, was to allow for that type of behavior. I think that's all I have for right now. Do you have any questions for me?
Yes. Okay, you talked about a form that you have your guests sign now when they come in, and you talk about what if they are caught trespassing?
Yep. Yeah, so I'm launching with, it's called Camp Spot. Mm-hmm. We launch on Friday. It's an online reservation platform, but on that, as a part of the checkout process, you need to accept the terms and conditions. In there's a lot of legal jargon around not suing and that kind of thing, but most importantly, there's the rules and the consequences of violating those rules. And the consequence is very clear. If you are caught violating any of these rules, it would be grounds for ejection without a refund immediately.
Okay.
So, and they all have to, they obviously don't have to read them. It's fairly lengthy, but the top will be the park rules.
Okay. Will they be allowed to come back to the park?
It does support a block list, so, no, I mean, if they, I don't know, if they littered, maybe that's something that, hey, it doesn't happen again. If they trespass or any of the more egregious violations, absolutely not. They would be on the block list.
Okay, all right, thank you. I had some other questions. Let's see. Okay, it's been brought to my attention that there's a new gravel road entrance that you're going to be making. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, there's one of two locations with the new property. One is on Carpenter and one's on, I think it's 228th, but it kind of bends around on the north side. There's two possible locations for that. It would eliminate about 1.5 miles of travel on the gravel road by doing that. Right, I don't know if you've seen the map, you kind of have to zigzag around and come in from the north, where this would allow direct entrance into the south. So it cut from about a little over 3 miles of gravel to about 2.1, I think.
Wow, okay.
Yep.
And, okay, there's about 14 acres around Mr. Webb and his family. That part has been restricted to growth, but yet you own that? Is that true, or?
The 14 acres around the Webbs, no.
Yeah,
I just own the
Okay.
park and then the 26-acre parcel L.
okay, all right, thank you. And then you've made some changes to your website recently. I guess it used to be called a resort or something, and then you talk about cabins coming. Can you just touch on that?
Yeah, I mean, right now it's named an RV park. I prefer more of a resort, more family oriented. And I think RV park has maybe a stigma of long-term and only for RVs, and obviously with cabins and maybe glamping tents or the things of those nature, it's more than an RV park. So I could see maybe River Oaks RV Resort or something someday, but
Okay.
but yeah, I mean, I hope with the new, assuming this gets approved, I hope with the expansion to add cabins and things of that nature.
Okay, what about those who are long-term? I think that the state law is 180 days, which is about 6 months.
Yep.
So are you clear on that? Because I'm not clear on what they have to do in order to remain in the park beyond that. And I don't want to see this as an RV park. I want to see it as more a vacation, and people coming there and having, temporary or permanent LP tanks. I mean, that to me doesn't say RV park, that says it's a trailer park. Forgive me for putting that down if anybody lives in one, but that's not what this intended use was when this was approved many years ago. So what is your solution to this problem?
Yeah, so the law is around 180 consecutive days in one location, and I sent everything to Adam, yesterday, and he's going to work with the county on that and figure out exactly, it is kind of vague, but figure out exactly how we can stay in compliance with that law.
Okay.
And we absolutely will. I mean, we have no intention on violating that law. Obviously, I can't speak to what happened in the past, but
Right.
but we will be in full compliance with that, with the county moving
Okay.
forward. But yeah, I mean, it kind of goes back to the whole rezoning, which I think is maybe being lost a little bit here, but we need these amenities. I mean, this is what would bring in those vacations, those families, those memories, and that's what this is about.
Okay. Hang on, I have some more. I just want to go through, make sure I have everything covered. Okay, you stated in your last appearance before the board that you had reached out to some of the neighbors, and some of them that I've spoken to on the phone have said that they've never spoken to you. And then they have conversations with the other neighbors who have said that you've never reached out to them. So this is your chance now. What's your opinion of that.
Yeah, sure. Theron reached out after the last meeting, and I invited him out to the park, and then James Romans had reached out on Facebook wanting to meet and talk, and great. James came out on Friday, or on Saturday. I think it was the Saturday after the rezoning meeting. Theron didn't come, but I've talked to, obviously, James for a while, and he seemed pretty excited about it. I've talked to Eric Sheets about it, and he had a lot of issues with the previous owner, but I think he and I are getting along well, and he seemed pretty excited about the idea, and so I haven't talked to everybody. I mean, I know they're, I don't want to get into legal issues, but obviously, it's just trying to see if we can get through this before opening anything up, but I hope to be on good terms with everybody. I hope that if they do see someone trespass, that they call me and let me know, and great, I will take care of it. I mean, that's the relationship I want to have with everybody here and there. Whether that, occurs, I guess is unknown, but that's what I hope comes of this.
Okay. And you talked about people managing your your resort. Do they live there? Are you or they any relation to Dale Webb?
No, they do live there. So I have a mobile home at the front of the park. It serves as the office and their living quarters in the back. And they live on property full time. No relation to Dale Webb.
Okay, all right. And have you had any relation, are you related to him in any way, shape, or form, or?
No.
No? Okay, all right.
Dale and I met about 90 days ago.
Okay. And then it was also brought to my attention that this is sold to you on a contract?
So the park I bought outright, and then the 26 acres is on contract.
Oh,
But
okay.
according to my attorney, I am the lawful owner, and I have equitable rights to that property.
Okay. If this doesn't get rezoned, would that revert back to the Webbs, or?
It would not.
No, okay. And then, I don't know, can you speak to a dumping station on there?
Oh,
the
yeah.
Lack of?
Absolutely. So a lot of government-owned campgrounds or RV parks, they typically just have electric at all the sites. So there's a central large dumping station at the entrance of the park. Ours, every single site has a sewage hookup.
Oh.
So they don't need to do that. But there is a dumping station at the front of the park. It doesn't look like a normal dumping station. You'd see it like a KOA or something, but there's a dumping station. But given that every site has their own dumping station, it's obviously not
Doesn't
necessary.
need. Okay, thank
Yep.
you. And then, okay, I think that's all I had for you. I appreciate you answering my questions.
Okay, you bet.
Yeah,
Anything from?
yeah.
What is assuming this gets passed to the zoning that you're looking for, what's your build-out plan for the resort? Is this a phased type build-out, and do you have some time frames associated with it? And also, have you done any kind of design around this, or are you using anybody to lay this out for you?
Yeah, it'll probably be over the course of 3 to 5 years to get it to where I really want it to be. I'm getting a couple quotes for the building. This would be for like the camp store, the shop, the bathroom facilities, laundry. I hope to build that in March. Obviously, it's dependent on this, but that's when we would break ground on that. So March would be for the big building. That's the number one priority right now. I think that's the biggest missing piece to this park. There's only one small block bathroom facility with 2 bathrooms and then a really small laundry facility. So the bathrooms are really big, obviously, for any tent campers and even RV campers love a nice shower. So that's the number one priority. That would go in the spring. New entrance, I hope to do in the spring. I'm a little bit scared at what that's going to cost, but it's definitely in the plan, and it's going to happen. A little bit's going to depend on interest rates. Obviously, the Fed just raised rates another 50 basis points. So, if it's 9% to borrow, it's going to be a little more difficult. But next year, the building, the entrance, maybe a cabin or 2, and then the cabins will be a phased approach. Obviously, I have no idea what kind of demand there will be for that. So I'd probably start with 2 or 3 and kind of see how that goes. So, but I would anticipate for all of the amenities, probably a 5-year time frame.
Okay.
I guess.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
I have two questions. One of them maybe is for you, but there was a little discussion from the attorney from the Dickinson firm about the balance between development and crop ground. Do you know the corn suitability rating on the ground? I think.
Yeah, I do. It's an average of 18. My dad's a farmer. We grew up in Northwest Iowa, and he farmed about 1,500 acres up there. So I'm well educated in that space. 18 CSR, you cannot grow crop. I mean, that is. And one other thing to illustrate with this property, it's 26 total acres, but about 15 is timber. And I wish we could show it. Maybe is there a way we could show it, or?
I don't know.
Well, I can speak to it
Michaela,
as well.
I mean, not Michaela. Sorry, where's,
Well, anyway, the timber on the front kind of, it shapes around in a U. I'm sure you guys have seen it. So it shapes
Like a
around kind of a
bowl.
U and kind of insulates the road and the neighbors from the rest of the property, which is obviously a great aspect. I mean, being a secluded campground is desirable. So all that timber is going to stay, and it's about 15 acres. So there's about 11 acres that will be used for the build out, and yeah, an average CSR of 18. Some of the properties at CSR of 5.
okay.
Thank you. My second question, there was either a concern raised tonight or at the prior meeting about like wastewater dumping into the river or not being compliant with state laws there. Do you have some additional thoughts or input for the public on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to address that. So I talked to the, Mike Killen, are you here? I'm right here. Okay, and Mike will talk to as well. I'll just start and you can take over. So I talked to environmental health with Warren County, and this claim has been made before. I don't know if it's the same individual or not, but the DNR went out there, they did a full walk of the property, a full inspection of it. They deemed this is not occurring. Everything is up to code. Mike did the time of transfer inspection. He can speak to that.
Whatever questions you have, I'll answer. There's no straight outlets. There is a dumping station. All the systems they've been inspected through the DNR over the years, and then the counties, both county, all even prior county inspectors have been there. And then he was going to sell it like 3 years ago, so it had a time of transfer on it then. And then this time it's had a time of transfer. He pumped the tanks twice a year, before Memorial Day and then before Labor Day, on every one of them for years. So they've been maintained. And I know there's not anything on the river because I put them in, guarantee you. And we did the time of transfer, we put dye in anything to make sure there was no anything going wrong, and there was not. But there is a dump station there, whether they use it or not. And I'm just here to defend the septics. I'm not here to yay or nay on anything. I'm here to defend the septics. That's all I'm here for.
And what are your qualifications and who are you with, just
Mike
for the
Keller
audience?
Construction, Carlisle, Iowa.
Okay,
Certified through the state, county, whatever.
awesome,
Certified installer, certified pumper, certified whatever.
great.
40 hours continuing education a year, which is a pain in the butt to do. And I still do the same thing as I did before, but they're not running out on the ground. You know, they're not. That's all I'm here for, is defend the septics. Like I say, the other things, whatever's going on, that's not my business. I don't live in the neighborhood, but the septics are my business.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. Any questions from you guys? I'll answer if you have any. I defend theirs like I would defend everybody's here because I put most of the people's in here, so that's what I'm here for. Not for anything else. I'm just defending what's there.
We trust you, Mike.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Those are my two questions. I want to make we're still in public comment, so I can publicly comment too. And we're going to start hear from people, so, you know, minds aren't made up. But one of the things that I think just objectively from afar, if we all took off our subjective hats on this, I think what's impacting the process is history, is what's occurred in the past. And I can't lay the blame and the fault of past transgressions, of trespassing, of dumping, of, you know, swerving at jogging families and other nonsense that I know has happened out there. None of it was right. None of it was right. But that doesn't reflect on Mr. Bourbon in my mind. What's before us today is a rezone on the 26 acres to add a dozen cabins-ish, 10, 2, 5.
Hard to say.
Whatever the means are for that, and a pool and a county store, a general store, and a park-like setting on 11 or 12 of the 26 acres. So I'm trying to frame the decision to look at those 26 acres and what's before us without sort of the taint of history. But I hear everyone. I get what you're saying. So when I look at it, I'm looking at, will 2 to 10 cabins, is that materially going to change the dynamics of the traffic on the road? Is the pool and the amenities, making it more of a resort-type destination, going to material change the traffic counts on the road, or the littering, or the trespassing? And that's really how I'm weighing this, and I think you could make arguments either way there. One, as Mr. Bourbon's going to say, is that if it's more of a family-friendly atmosphere and people are playing poolside and there's more kids and less, long-term campers, perhaps we'll have some less traffic and some less littering or trespassing. From the neighbor's perspective, the concern's very valid. It's, well, there's going to be more people here, and if we don't hit the brakes on this now, it could become larger, and I get that. But I think that's my assessment initially, is that, what's happened in the past is an issue. I think that a big part of the problem is that from the neighborhood perspective, there's just a real lack of trust. I don't think there's been the sort of enforcement and oversight on this property that has created where we're at now. And so if we have people that are living there beyond 180 days, if we have violations, that has to be enforced, whether that's the state of Iowa, the DNR, or the county sheriff, or zoning or environmental health. Those things have to get addressed, regardless of how this shakes out. Those things have to be addressed, because it's patently unfair to the neighbors to have that. And I think that we're, historically, there's been some circumvision of the law there. So, I don't want to have permanent residents there. I don't want to have, dumping or trespassing there. And I think that lack of enforcement historically has created a big issue. And that's why we're here, and that's why you've got your neighbors here. I will say I do appreciate the on-site management aspect. I do appreciate modified terms with some teeth in them. I mean, that's important to me regardless of how this shakes out, because there's still 100 RV campsites there, and it has to change. I mean, it really can't continue on the path that it's on. So those are just my initial thoughts.
Okay, thank you.
All right,
Thank you. Welcome, sir. If you'd state your name and your address.
My name is Steve Darr. I'm an electrical contractor, 19174 Cleveland Place, Carlisle. I've been an electrical contractor for 52 years. I wired all of Cuddy's campgrounds. I wired all of Webb's campgrounds, several for the DNR, and they're all set up pretty much the same. It's one way in, one way out to take care of that aspect of it. The next part of it is this 26 acres that they have bought, or Webb bought. I went to Mid-American Energy, asked them about what the availability of electricity was out there, because I knew we were close. At that time, they went through and they researched, and they went through and figured it out, which they said the whole area is a little short. So they were going to bring in new lines if this went down. So that would be a help for everybody out there. So just so you know that. The next thing is that campground, in comparison to other campgrounds such as Cuddy's, they have 700 sites there. When we first wired it, there was 41. And they have year-round campers, 12 months out of the year. I know, I put it in. I hooked them up for it. So you can check with the law. I'm not up on the laws, but that does happen. everybody here are my friends, so I don't want to get involved with that part of it, but I think probably with the aspect of camping the way it is right now, with the cost of going out on vacations and living in a hotel for the weekend, it's astronomical. People can't afford it. So I think you need to put some sort of consideration in that. But other than that, I think Webb's Campground is as set up as good as any I've been at. And I've wired them from Iowa City all the way back to here. So that's all I have to say.
All right, thank you, Steve.
Steve?
Lance Hoffman, 811 West Detroit, Indianola. I am a camper. I've been at different campgrounds, and it is a very nice campground, with very nice sites. They're spaced out. Reason I came up there, one of the comments was made that they were dumping waste as they were going down the gravel road. Having a camper, we unplug the fresh water tank, and the tank drains out going down the road. Not the gray or the blank, because you pull knives to do that. But to let the little bit of fresh water that runs out, if you look at every campsite, it's wet going out of the campgrounds because everyone drains fresh water, clean water. So that's usually what you see. Hopefully no one's doing the other.
Okay, thank you. Wow.
Mike Mendenhall, 3557 215th Avenue. In regards to the permanent sites, what I heard from Bevan was I didn't hear eviction notices put in for those people. What I heard was he's going to try to figure out how to get around the letter of the law so he can keep them in and keep them going as permanent and still be up with the law on that. The other thing I'd like to bring up is I'm wondering why this is being requested as C2 instead of C1. The campground is C1. I'm suspecting there's something more there that we're not hearing, the reason he's asking for the C2 over the C1 designation.
Okay, thank you. Where's Miranda?
She's back there.
Okay.
Eileen Hansen, 22076 Carpenter Street. And just to kind of add on to what Mike said is, so I think this whole process has been very educational and eye-opening for me, and especially like sitting through that December 1st hearing. And the one thing that I heard, because there were a lot of things up for consideration as C2s that particular day. So, and most of those were on a highway. They were right off of a highway. And so therefore, I too am confused as to why is it C2 with the commercial highway service. And that could just be my ignorance. But also, and Mr. Bourbon, I think he has great plans for what he wants to do there. But as was reiterated in those public hearings on December 1st, once you're a C2, you're always a C2. So that does not stop someone, future owner, from coming in and completely changing that plan, completely knocking down those trees and all of those things that he says are things he will keep, and I believe he will. But once you're rezoned to a C2, then you're a C2, and that opens up to a whole bunch of different developments that could go in there.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. I have some questions for you, Miranda. I'm sorry, I will let you speak after. Our chair will. Okay, so the question is, why C2 instead of C1 or special use permit?
Okay, in a special use, it is allowed a camp, but it's more for private, for family members. A month or so ago, we had a family come in, and it went before the Board of Adjustment for special use because they wanted it just strictly for family members, not to open up to the public, not to take money, anything like that, strictly for family members.
Okay, so that's what special use is for.
Yes,
Okay.
so it's more private versus
This is
commercial.
public, right, commercial.
Yes, because they're taking funds.
Okay,
And the difference between C1 and C2
yes.
was asked?
C2 is more of your highway service commercial, the different types of uses, heavier than a light industrial, like a hair salon or things like that. So it's more, like a general store, or I don't want to speculate what it could be, but
Right.
yes, it's more,
Okay.
C1 is more of your lighter, your hair salon, a bank, things like that.
So he has said general store, I believe I heard mini golf, the pool. And cabins.
Yes.
So that would fall under
Yes,
C2
yes.
instead of C1,
Yeah,
which
because it
is-
wouldn't, yes, and
Okay.
it wouldn't be more, we're not going to the next level of industrial or anything like that, because we're not manufacturing.
Right.
We're not doing that type of, out there in that area, so.
So why would the campground be zoned C1 then?
Commercial, C2?
Yeah. No, the campground itself is,
not a general store there.
oh, okay. Is that why? I don't know.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, thank you.
Questions?
No, I think so.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Sorry.
Good evening. I'm Janet Casson. I live at 22167 Carpenter Street. My family has owned that since 1976, I believe. This is a little unorthodox, but Mr. Bervin, these are your neighbors. In case you wanted to meet us and talk with us, would it be possible for those who are here for this reason to stand up, just so we can see who all is in the room out of concern for this? No, thanks. So I just do that to indicate not that many of these people, yes, come with grievances about Dale Webb and the way he's run that campsite, but many of these people come for concerns about what this neighborhood will look like in the future. And though Mr. Bervin has lovely plans for that parcel of land, it will not only affect, there's a slip of the tongue, affect that piece of land. And I know I have shared my concerns with you at the last hearing and via email, but I appreciate how you framed it out, and that you wanted to notice that it is not all about what has happened in the past, but forward-looking. How is this going to impact this neighborhood and the way that it will be treated? These amenities that he's bringing in are not for us, not for our neighborhood, per se. They're for other folks coming in. Not that we're not willing to share our space, it's beautiful out there, but not to share it for the sake of traffic and pollution and light pollution and all the other things that it will bring. I appreciate your efforts to preserve pristine spaces. They are fewer and fewer, obviously. So as long as we can, we'll keep trying to fight for it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Rachel Hirschman, 3145 220th Avenue. I emailed you. I won't get into all of that. I did see in the packet that there was some notes that the ruling for the prior property should not be taken into consideration for this new spot because they're different, which I understand and I respect. But it's still expanding the campground as a whole. As the resort, whatever you want to call it, is still expanding based off of that previous ruling where there was no more expansion. And a campground is defined, including cabins. So while they're not looking to increase beyond the 101 RV spots, it's still expansion. And further into that, yes, there is a lot of history with Webb, but because it's on contract, if that defaults, it goes back to Webb, right? So it could be a way to get around it. It was kind of handed down to him. I understand this is a new parcel, but that's kind of where we are too, from our seats is, there was stuff that we probably sat on instead of raising the flag for because we thought it was going to be done.
Right.
And over with the previous ruling. So I think that was it, right? Did I get it? Okay. I think I got it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Theron Connery, 22167 Carpenter Street. I just wanted to touch on some of the comments that were made earlier. Dale did purchase this property with the plans to expand even based on the 2020 ruling. That's who purchased this property. So we can talk about the past, and I agree, we shouldn't take it into account. We want to definitely try to look forward. That is something that happened. The reason that I didn't get together with Mr. Bervin was because I notified him that someone on behalf of the campground had gone and taken something off of someone else's property and moved it to the campground. And then it was since taken back, and the farmer got their hot water heater back that had been removed from their property. This is going on still. This is something that's still occurring. It's still happening. And I appreciate his intent for how he wants to change things moving forward, but the trust piece is a huge issue of this. What we've seen demonstrated is that Dale purchased this property with the intent to expand. And because he knew you had already decided you couldn't, he's just hopeful that you'll ignore it, your previous decision about future owners, which is you looking forward also, and just back out of your decision that you'd already made. That's the intent of this, and that's my greatest concern. And I look at this understanding that, to be fair, all of these other issues that are not binding on why we're here today aren't going to materially impact your decision, or may not materially impact your decision. But there are a number of key pieces here that should, and that is your own previous decision, most of all. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Ooh, yeah. And after this one, we're going to do last call.
Just to address the things in the property being taken, this was my understanding of talking with the office manager and with Dale. When he closed on the 26 acres, there was an LP tank used for a concrete heater for the cattle in that property. And either he didn't know it was on contract, I can't speak to it, but he took it off the property. He then talked to John and called Farrell Gas. He paid $1,000 for Farrell Gas to put it back on the property. So it was before I bought it, but just to speak to that, Dale did make it right, and he paid $1,000 to put it back.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, sure. Yeah, Rachel.
Come on up.
No, you're okay.
No,
Rachel
you're fine.
Fusco, Warren County Economic Development Corporation. I just wanted to point out some of the positives. That's kind of my job. For sure, I think when I'm looking at this, I'm seeing tourism. This is something that's been really important for us as a county. We all know we have a gorgeous county. That area in particular is amazing. I've camped out there. It's an awesome campground. The dump at the site is a feature that every campground in the world should have. I would be surprised, I can't speak for what people have witnessed or seen, but I'd be surprised why anybody would be motivated to dump in the river when they have it available to them right there at their site. But either way, visitors, what this means for us, that's new money into our county on many levels. Expanding this, that's more people visiting, experiencing our county, seeing how beautiful it is here. It could potentially be an attraction in other areas like, hey, it's so beautiful here, maybe we want to live here. These are things that can really come from it. Obviously, when people are visiting, they're bringing you money, they're spending money here. When you're camping, you always need things. You always need things from the store. You always need to go to the gas station. There's obviously some sales tax revenue there. Changing the zoning is going to result in property tax increase revenue. So there's some financial benefit there, but also I think just the promotion side of Warren County, and really inviting people to see that we have this beautiful area, especially along the river. The Hartford Marsh is around there, lots of hunters. That is a huge attraction for people like that. And Central Iowa Water Trails, that is all slated through that area. And right along the river where the DNR have their spot, that is something that could potentially be coming in the future. So it seems to me like having this be, beefed up or beautified and, just kind of reinforced with new ownership, new passions, new amenities, I think that is kind of like lining it up, teeing it up for a really successful section of the water trail as far as Warren County goes. So that's what I have to say. Thanks for listening.
Rachel?
Thank you, Rachel.
With that, I'm going to close our public hearing portion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye. And again, just for everyone's here's benefit, we didn't have to do that round, and I want you to understand that you know, I think that's important to me, and I think it's important to the board to give people an opportunity to state their thoughts, and I heard you, so I'm just wanted to make that mention. Okay, so the board.
Yes.
Board discussion.
I don't have any comment.
No.
I'm,
Do you have a motion?
I've decided.
You have decided, okay. Well, I do want to point out some things. I did make some phone calls today in between all of our other meetings. Property values, that was something that has been a question and something that someone has brought up to me. I've asked numerous people. I think our last year has been enormous in properties being sold in Warren County, not to mention the rest of the country. But here in Warren County, they have increased by about 20 to 25%. And it didn't matter where it was located, but each of you know that you live in a beautiful part of Warren County. And yes, this is going to affect who would want to live next to a campground. But essentially, right now, you do live next to a campground. And whoever purchases your land in the future can either deal with Mr. Brevin or someone else. I think that the Webbs have been looking for someone to purchase it for a long time. And I think trying to, in a metaphorically way, put your arms around Mr. Brevin and take him for his face value and his trust, and try to see what his intentions really are and get to know him that way. I also talked to Chief DeShane of the Hartford Emergency over there. He is the fire chief. He said that they have worked on emergency situations out there many times. Most of them are EMS calls. If they can't handle it, they always call in back up. Carlisle is one of them. All surrounding areas would be more than happy to come and assist. So, but he is also working hand in hand with expanding his emergency services with Mercy and with another hospital, Methodist. So there's going to be plenty of emergency situation that will be available for should something happen out there. To address the trespassing, I did have the legal and the sheriff that I just posed this question to this morning in a meeting. And I asked them specifically what the liability issues were for someone coming upon your property and doing something that is not appropriate, and then you being held liable for their actions. And both of them told me that it depends on the situation. So although I don't have a crystal ball and I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, I think Mr. Brevin wants to eliminate that by being very forceful with those that trespass on your property. And in my conversation with him, he has noted that I guess he even wants to be as close with you as giving you his personal cell phone number. So if that happens, you call him so that he is aware of the situation as well. Of course, calling emergency first if that's necessary. Okay, let's see some of the other things that we've addressed. The traffic, the unruly behavior of folks on the road, please report that to the sheriff. There is no need for you to be unsafe. I don't care who it is. So, and then, again, I just go back to, I don't know, Mr. Brevin hasn't extended out to you, extend out to him. I like the fact that he's invited you to come out to his campground and give you a tour. I don't know, in my neck of the woods, we invite people over for dinner and we kind of get to know them. And I may or may not like them, and I may never invite them again, but I always extend that invitation so that I know who my neighbors are. And I would just ask you to do the same.
Okay. Is there a motion, board?
Be it resolved that the Warren County Board of Supervisors hereby approves the rezoning request by the Bourbon Group LLC, 34534 Moffett Lake Road, Cumming, Iowa, of Parcel L from A1 Agricultural to C2 General Commercial Highway Service District, and waives the second and third reading. That's my motion.
Is there a second?
I can second.
Discussion from the board? Roll call vote?
McIntyre?
No.
Peter?
Aye.
DeCook?
Aye. Motion carries. Number 3 is consider approval of MSA contract for additional zoning and subdivision revisions with possible action. Miranda?
This contract is between Warren County and MSA in the amount of $10,000. The scope of work, this is in addition to the original contract to work with the zoning on our zoning ordinance and our subdivision. Our current ordinance is dated. It's from 1980, and at times it's hindering us more than helping us. So this is an additional work. They hope to have that to us within 3 months on some updates. We met with them last week on some issues that are really come to light in the last few months that we need to work on.
Okay, questions for Miranda?
What are the specific things that?
There's a few things. I know a month or so ago, we met with you. We talked about lanes and trails. We talked about, of course, at our last meeting on December 1st, the 4 and a 40, where we're, instead of houses, we're going to look at splits. Dawn and I met with the city of Indianola, and we're going to work with them on trying to work together on some things. So, sorry. So those are a couple things specifically that we want to work on. It seems like we found loopholes, or the public has found loopholes, and so those are things that we'd like to work on ahead of time. This is something different. Working on this zoning and subdivision ahead of the land use plan. So this is a little additional work that they're doing for us. But they're looking at a 3-month schedule before it'll come back before you for approval.
And what's the amount? The
$10,000.
Exactly 10,000.
Mm-hmm.
Did they send over like a proposal? Is that in here?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. I put that in your packets. Yeah, and Dawn has had a chance to review it as well, and she's seen no problems.
Those are the magic words, Dawn.
Yeah,
Sometimes I get a contract, or I hear about a contract, and then no one reviews it, and then I'm like, I don't think I'm going to approve that. All right. Well, I think it'll get things jump-started, and I'm supportive of it.
Yeah, we've been working with them, and like I said, I think this will help us, trying to help the developing that's going on in Warren County right now, so.
It's just too powerful.
I'll make a motion to approve the MSA contract for the additional fee of $10,000.
Second.
Any discussion from our Board of Supervisors? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you.
Does that put you off the hook for the night? Are you, no more from Miranda? I'm good tonight. All right. Have a Merry Christmas, Miranda.
Thank you,
Have a good one. Thank you. All right, number 4 is discussion regarding DeVries and Cunningham retainage payouts with possible action. Jamie.
Good evening. So I'll start with Cunningham. I have the Shive approval, DCI approval. Darren and I talked and agree. Their full payout is $224, $150, and 96 cents. $224, $150, and 96 cents.
Recommendation to pay it?
The recommendation is to pay it, yes. And we've already started working with them. They are Johnny on the spot with our warranty items. I had an issue, as soon as I send a warranty request in, they're on it. So they're super excited to be part of the project, and I don't see any issues moving down the line, so.
Perfect. And DeVries?
DeVries, I think the paperwork that I have from DeVries is prior to the board approving the last, when we had the big discussion about the water management system, and the board approved to go ahead and pay their August application. That just happened on the 6th, and the paperwork that I have for them is older than that, so it doesn't reflect that. So I did email Diane, who is the one that I deal with on billing for DeVries. We are all in agreement to pay. I just don't have that final dollar amount. I want to get that from them, showing the amount that we just paid them this month, and make sure that that's taken off of this total. So there's a discrepancy of what they're asking for versus what I show that we owe them. So I don't have a final amount. It's around 160, 170.
Okay. My suspicion is that we may have a work session sometime next week. It would be my preference to have that whipped prior to the end of the year. But I don't know if that's a Wednesday or Thursday. It probably won't be Tuesday, just because that's fallen pretty close to Christmas, and
Okay.
I'm probably traveling. But if we did something Wednesday or Thursday, we could do some cleanup stuff before the end of the year, and I'm willing to do that.
As long as Diane's not out on vacation, that shouldn't be a problem. I should be able to figure it out. And I did, Megan printed off all of the payments that we made to DDVI, or to DeVries for me, so that I could go in and confirm everything that I show is accurate to what she shows. And so I feel confident with our numbers. I just want to make sure that they don't show anything and there's no discrepancy before I say this is the amount that I think we should pay.
Okay. At this point, I'll make a motion to pay Cunningham in the amount of their retainage of $150.96.
Second.
Discussion from the board. Roll call, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries, and we'll address DeVries Electric hopefully sometime next week.
Okay. Tracy, do you know if they meet on Wednesday and approve it? I know she likes to have, since Monday's a holiday, would then Wednesday give me time to get the application in so that it could be approved for the next, which is the 3rd for being paid? Would that work okay? Okay. So if they can get the work session scheduled on Wednesday, then I can get the information to Kim, so that then they would be paid the next week.
In a worst-case scenario, I can remote into a Zoom meeting. We'll see. The approval of Dawn. Perfect. All right. Number 5 is, so we'll address that one later, is consider an ARPA application request with possible action. And this is in regards to a lift.
Yes.
It is in regards to a lift. I just have to find.
When we
the right-
need a lift, do we rent one?
We have rented one in the past. We will still have to rent one. This will not reach all the way up in the lobby. It's not that tall. It is tall enough to get us close, but not high enough to get us all the way there. This lift is for, it looks like
You said changing the filters in
changing
the
filters and the.
cells in the.
Yes, and work behind the cells. You should have a copy of the, oh, here it is. The picture of what Josh did the research on, and they did find a couple of them through United Rentals. One was in Des Moines, and the other one was Cedar Rapids, maybe. One was a little older, one was a little newer. The number of hours were similar. The one that was in Cedar Rapids that was a little older was a little cheaper, but in the grand scheme of things, Josh really feels that going with the newer one with the similar number of hours on it is the best way to go, just because it's just a little bit newer. So we're asking for $12,400 from ARPA to cover the cost of getting that here. And the reason that it was a rush is because it's a piece of used equipment, and we're afraid that it's going to sell before we could, yeah. So they know we're interested. It just is, we need the money to say, okay, yeah, it's been approved, and
Okay. I
lock us
gotcha.
in.
I don't have a problem with it at all. I think it's a good investment for the county, as long as us county employees can take it home too. Not kidding. No, not kidding.
Christmas lights.
It's recorded.
I'm just kidding.
But it will, I mean, I know that when the building was built, you guys saw how the cells come in, and they're like big Legos, and they stack on top of
Yeah.
each other. And right now, the only way that they can get up there to work on things back there is a tall ladder.
It's so unsafe.
You come down, you move,
Yeah.
you go up. Yeah, it's just
No.
not safe. It's really not.
Jamie, I'm supportive of it too, and I'll vote to approve it with one small itty bitty caveat, which is, yes, that's probably safer than a super tall ladder, but I know from personal experience in a prior work comp case, I know for a fact that there are people in the world who have been mangled on these things through operator error or whatever, so just make sure who's ever using it's trained up. It seems pretty simplistic, and more often than not, that's the case, but there's a lot of power in those things. So when they go up, if you're in a short room and you get pinned on it, I mean, I know for a fact someone's been seriously injured. So if there's some training, make sure that occurs before people are using it.
Okay.
Even though it seems simple.
What did you ask?
You have to have a special operating license?
I don't think so. But I will definitely.
I don't think so either, but training
Yeah.
videos are
Yeah.
definite, yeah.
Just be safe.
I
We
used
can
to
make
work
that
in a
happen.
warehouse.
And if United Rentals does something, like if I went out and rented it, I'm sure they'd give me a quick, this is how you use it, and I'm sure the guys are like,
It was
we
a
already
bad
know.
crush injury.
Yeah,
I'm just-
yeah.
It's only one good.
Oh, my goodness.
It happens. Okay.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the ARPA application as presented for 12 something for the lift.
Second.
Discussion, roll call, please.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 6 is discussion regarding eMate with possible action. This is eMate round number 9.
And you have the substitute tonight, so, sorry.
If we
What
don't know, it'll be round 10 in January.
Okay, moving on. You all had asked Katie to come back with numbers regarding the use of the units, the mobile unit and the full users, so we can buy the right licenses. After much work and talking with different people within the county, we need 8 full users at $1,020 each, and that's for a total of $81.60. And we need 3 mobile users at $480 each, and that's at a total of $1,440. And I think you should have an updated flow chart,
I do.
Okay, yes.
okay?
Is there someone to back up Evan as like the overall person for,
That I can't answer.
Okay.
I don't know.
okay,
I mean, hopefully we'll have somebody that can in case we need to.
okay, all right.
Matt.
I have reviewed the contract. They did add the words that we wanted added to paragraph 8. I've read the whole thing. I've talked with Katie, and I believe his name is Brian. Is that right? You remember?
Yeah, it's Brian.
Okay, Brian from Fluke. They addressed our concerns, and they made the changes to the contract that we requested.
Okay.
At
Thank
this
you.
point, I've reviewed the contract, and I'm good with it. I also have reviewed the subscription and order form agreement, and I'm good with that as well. It has the final price on this for okay, $35,350. I want to make sure my numbers matched, and they do. I'm sorry, $35,350.
And that includes all training on-site?
It does. It includes on-site training. It includes assistance when we need it.
And their initial reduction for doing it?
And there's
We're
the
saving-
additional reduction.
Right, in the 2 months free?
And the 2 months free, yes.
Okay, I love it. They have been very good to work with. I hope that this is an example of how they're going to be in the future, so.
They will be on site here, I believe, for 4 days, so
Okay.
that's great.
I do have a concern. It's a new concern based on IT today with the recent developments. And I'm trying to remember, Jamie, is this like a big lift for IT for implementation? Like
If they get involved.
when they start putting the system in place, how much workload is there on IT?
I don't think any unless they
I don't think so either.
take it on for themselves.
Unless they're
And then it
inventorying
goes on
themselves.
to the department.
Okay.
Right. And
So there's no network stuff or anything
No,
they have to get involved with?
it's my understanding that this is cloud-based, and so Fluke would be the maintainer of that cloud, that's why the maintenance fees are in there. And so our IT, having Evan at the beginning, of this flow chart, I think is for technical reasons, should something go wrong on our end, but I
It
just,
shouldn't be too burdensome for.
right, it shouldn't
Unless they're
create,
doing a big inventory or to start taking on other departments of
Right,
inventory, then
right.
it would be, but they don't have to start with that.
So Evan's rights
That's a
would
good
be the
question, though.
same as the, essentially the same as the users of like the department head rights. So I guess David,
okay, so all of them share the same, it's just he's,
rights, yes.
okay,
So
okay.
Evan is kind of like you just said, he's kind of our help.
So he would be the contact should Fluke want to
Yes.
call somebody here? Okay, okay. But all of them are going to share the same. So it's not like we have to have somebody in, okay. That's all I wanted to know. Okay, thank you. So like health services, inventory, maintenance, and engineer, those, and Evan would have the same rights. So those 5. Okay, and then the rest are just users on it, and they input? Okay.
The only thought I had is, should we use ARPA for this initial fund? This initial order? Does this qualify under ARPA?
Aaron, I can't answer that without
Researching it.
looking at it. But however,
Likely.
it's possible to move the fund from ARPA to wherever you end up taking this from for now. So,
Okay.
or you could approve ARPA funds for it tonight, and if we find out it doesn't work, we'll pull the ARPA funds back and pay it from another account. I'm sorry, I wish I had had that question ahead of time.
I'm sorry, I just thought
I just didn't even think.
Good
come
question
up.
for earlier this afternoon, wasn't it?
You know. I mean, to me, it's, I'm trying to remember what we have.
I would guess so too.
I would think so too. Just based on what it is, it's a new program, it's to help with the running of the Justice Center,
Yeah,
not
is
to
this-
mention the rest of the county.
Is it coming out of capital projects right now?
I don't know.
That's the one thing that hasn't been discussed, is how it was going to be paid.
How it was going to be paid? Okay, well, I think that makes up my mind. I would like to try for ARPA, yeah.
Well, the default's always general reserve if we need it, so.
Exactly, and we have-
In any way you slice it, we're gonna be A-okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, in light of this being the 9th presentation for EMA, and the fact that our Assistant County Attorney is under the weather and yet still here, taking our questions.
Thank you, Don.
Doing the work of this county with a smile, I'm going to make a motion to approve the EMATE contract as described.
Okay, second.
Any discussion from the board? Roll call, please.
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Don.
you.
Hope we get better soon. All right, budget report. Good evening, Megan.
Hello.
Hello.
So we are taking a look at November tonight. Looking at our expenditures, it's a lot of what we've been going over already. This year, the way that I'm handling the amendment is as a part of budget process for this first amendment. So while everybody's reviewing their budgets, it's pulling out anything that they're budgeting to go over for this year. And then during our department meetings with all the department heads, we can discuss the amendment at that time. So as I go through these and you're kind of seeing repeats of things that are to be amended, those all be part of our budget discussion starting in January. So starting with nutrition, wages and benefits are running high and will likely need to be amended, as well as we received a grant that we will be amending for both the expenses and the revenue for the funds that we got with the grant. District Court, the property lease termination fee was greater than budgeted, so we'll amend for that. Capital projects, this will be the big one that will really make our overall budget look better once it's amended, because we had planned for it, again, to get completed last fiscal year, and we're wrapping it up right now. General services, we had some accrued expenses of an audit fee, and then we pay our insurance renewals at the beginning of the year, so that always kind of front loads a lot of the expenses into this budget. Juvenile probation, there's been an increase in service fees, and that will need an amendment. And then finally, in non-departmental, we just made a bunch of our bond payments for the year, so that's why that looks a little high. And then I'm just going to be monitoring our ARPA projects, because I budgeted for a certain amount, but obviously that I expected that to kind of be ever-changing this year with the ARPA. So that will likely need some sort of amendment, if not just to realign where the expenses have fallen within their line items. But yep, that was the only one that was running a little bit high this month and not last month. Otherwise, you've got your comparison to last year over on the right. Next, for revenues. And again, I wanted to point out that on our expenses, when we are running, even with our capital projects, we are running a little bit high. We should be 42% through the year. But if you take those capital projects out, once we budget for them, in the amendment, we're at about 41%. So we're kind of right on target.
That makes sense.
And then over to our revenues. So again, 42% through the year. If you look at the grand total of our revenues overall, we're at 60%, so that's great. And again, a lot of these are similar to last month. Starting with the auditor, we haven't received city election revenue so far. That was budgeted at $16,000. Our recording of instruments for the recorder's office is running a little bit low, quite a bit low. We're at about 30% of the budgeted $450,000, and that's the largest revenue source in the recorder's budget. And we're averaging about $27,000 per month, and I think it was about $37,000 per month is what we need to average to get to the $450 that we budgeted. DHS is a little low, but we get reimbursed from the state for all of their expenses, so I'm not concerned about that. It's just timing. And then public health, I'm continuing to watch it just because it is running a little bit lower, but a lot of that could be grant timing, so I'm just kind of monitoring that one each month. And next, nutrition's starting to catch up some here. We've gotten 2 more of the Justice Center food payments this month, so for a total of 3 payments for that, and then an aging resources grant of $21,000. And then on the next page, I think we're sitting at about almost $30,000 in the fund balance for nutrition, I believe. Yep. And that, I haven't even done the transfer yet because I've just been keeping an eye on the fund.
Okay.
So that's even without the transfer.
Okay.
So
It's not bad, but it's not, yeah.
Yeah, yep. And then mental health, that one will look cleaner after the amendment because I will be amending down the revenues because that moved to the state. And then Liberty Center, that's just based on what we receive from those residents.
Yeah, it'll never be, unfortunately.
So those are the revenues. Fund balances, so overall, we're looking at about overall, so we're down about 7.65%. Again, a big chunk of that would be the Justice Center coming out of there. So if you look, that bottom line removes the capital projects, the ARPA fund that was new, and then that mental health fund that's no longer with the county. And then you'll see a 4.65% increase. But the ones that we'd like to keep watching would be that general basic. We did budget for that to go down, and it has gone down about 9.8%. So we'll just need to be cognizant of that while we're budgeting. And then nutrition has gone down a lot, but a lot of that has been budgeted for, and the reason that we're doing a lower transfer. And again, I'm going to keep an eye on that, and if I've got your resolution approving the transfer, so if we need that, then I will go ahead and process it. And then, let's see, and then the funds that are down are ones that I would expect, like the capital projects. Conservation has a new reserve account, so they're spending down their capital improvement and land account and putting more funds into that reserve account. So yep, everything is pretty much as expected. Nothing stands out too much there. Any questions?
I have a quick one for you, Megan. You might know, you might not. The fund balances between the lot of them from 001 through fuel station, interest rates have been going up. Are we earning a little better interest on them? Do you know? I know that's really a treasurer question, but do you know what, is there an interest income line item that you're aware of that's going in the right direction?
Yes. Yes, so like on the ARPA, I track the interest that we receive. I can't remember offhand, I just know that the numbers have been going up. And I can't remember if it was our ARPA account or one of the other ones, but I know they were about $100 and now they're about $1,000 a month. So some of them have gone up quite a bit.
You're picking up my point is, even at a 4% clip on a 3-month rolling bank CD, if you've got $7 million in your general basic fund, that starts to add up. Or if you've got some leftover ARPA funds that are maybe allocated but not yet requested or spent, you're picking up some interest. So there is some positive to the inflation environment that we're in, and that if you've got resources, your resources grow a little faster.
Yeah.
So.
And we have, if I remember correctly, we have the funds that we receive in interest on ARPA dollars can be receipted. They've been receipted into the ARPA fund, but they can be receipted into our general fund and spent on anything, so.
There's a good plus.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh, interest arbitrage. Awesome. I like it. Okay,
Thank you.
Those are all my questions. Thanks, Megan. Anyone else have any questions for her?
Thank you, Megan.
All right. Receive and file reports number 8. We have reports from the recorder and from the Humane Society. I'll make a motion to receive and file those reports.
Second? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And number 9, Supervisors report. Who would like to go first?
I'll get it out of the way. Okay. So I attended the compensation board meeting, met with Ben Reeves, the City of Indianola City Manager, 911 Executive Board meeting in Norwalk, joint 911 and EMA meeting, the Board of Supervisor work session. I think we had 2 of those. Department head meeting and special meeting, 2 of those, and personnel reviews. Safety meeting, and met and spoke with citizens concerning recycling, personnel, and zoning issues. That's my report.
Thank you, Crystal. Darren?
I'd just like to take a few minutes to, Crystal needs to sign that. This is Aaron DeCook's last meeting, and I just want to thank Aaron for his leadership the last 4 years. I think his leadership skills were very strong. He makes being a
Fantastic.
chairman of the board look very, very easy.
Yes.
And his knowledge of the budget and how money flows through the county and how that works has been extraordinary. I've learned a lot from Aaron. I hope to take what I've learned from Aaron. I think that will benefit the board as we go forward. I also don't know that it's really been pointed out. He's not the type of person that will, boast, but there was a point in time where the Justice Center was at some severe risk for not happening. And if it weren't for the efforts and hard work and knowledge and wisdom of Aaron DeCook, we may not even have a Justice Center at this point in time. He came in early in the project and did some rework of what we were going to put into the Justice Center. I'm convinced that without those efforts, that we'd be in a totally different situation. And you think about the amount of money that it would cost to build that Justice Center today. I mean, the timing was impeccable. It was critical. It was a huge, huge win for our county. So I just want to recognize Aaron for, his leadership, his knowledge of budget, his ability to make the Warren County Justice Center happen. Those are huge things. So your time and your commitment has really paid off for the residents of Warren County. And I, for one, am very grateful. And I wish you the very best, you and your family the very best. I know that you will be successful in whatever endeavors you pursue. That is obviously very talented and articulate, smart young man yet, you know, he's got a long ways to go, but I know whatever he does, he'll be very, very good at it. So thank you, Aaron, very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, for my report, I also attended a slew of meetings. I've got one tomorrow with Economic Development in the morning. I think we'll have another work session coming up, and we've got a few loose ends to tie up. We'll get those done. And for my final remarks, I'll keep it pretty brief. I sat through Doug Scholl's final one, and I'm just going to keep it brief, which is rare for me, but I do mean this.
No, it's not.
I can get windy, long-winded, so here it goes. It really has been an honor to serve the citizens of Warren County and with my colleagues and former colleagues, and I mean that. I truly learned a lot along the way during my time on this board. I want to tell the citizens and those that are listening that I really am impressed with Warren County. I love it here. My wife and family loves it here. We're not moving. And I really, the more that I did county government, the more I fully understand how blessed we are as a county. Most counties in Iowa would trade places with us in a quick minute. They really would. We have growth. We have people moving in here. Look at the census numbers. That speaks volumes of it. Look at the rezoning applications. Look at the growth, whether it's in home starts or commercial or industrial. We're really on the right track, and growth is painful at times, as you can see when things get rezoned and neighborhoods change some. There's always some tension there, but growth is also the one thing that helps massage and fix a lot of issues. Because if you recall, on the 1st, we had a gas bill, and it was $400,000 up. And we have COLA raises, and I appreciate our employees here. They work hard, and I don't expect people to work for no pay, and I expect people to get raises. But there's some built-in structural things with government that are just going to continue to increase, and you're going to pay for those increases with increased property taxes, or you're going to pay for those increases with a broadening of the tax base and growth. We have been very fortunate to have the latter. And I'm pleased by that. I'm not taking credit for it, but it's a good thing, and it's an enviable position for many other counties. So, in addition to Warren County being beautiful, financially we're in good shape. When I started on the board, I and the board set out to accomplish some large tasks, and while being cognizant of you, the taxpayers. I think many of those tasks are now thankfully behind us. That's an accomplishment. I'll agree with you, Darren. That I'm happy that it's done. Interest rates are up and inflation's up, and I'm really glad that some of those big ticket items are going to be in the rear view for Warren County. So those things make me happy. I'm well pleased about it. Last remark for the board and future board. I would urge you to continue policies of true fiscal responsibility, prudent decisions, and respectful working dialogue and collaboration. And, I know that this board, there has been times in the last 2 years specifically where, Darren Heater and I were on the opposite ends on a decision or two, or Crystal McIntyre were on the opposite ends on a decision or two. But if you step back from that and think about how many times we're at a 3-0 vote, it's 90+%, maybe 95%. We agree a lot more than we disagree. But when we disagree, be cognizant that it's not personal. It's different regions representing a different constituency with different ideas. And what I've learned a long time ago was that the only person that I'm going to agree with 100% of the time is myself. That doesn't work out so well when you're on a board of 3, and in a couple of years we'll have a board of 5. So you got to work with each other, but be respectful and understand that even when you disagree, that people are coming from a position of disagreement with good intentions. And I know everyone here wants what's best for Warren County and loves the place too. So just keep that in mind and continue in that tradition. I will say that, I do appreciate getting to know so many of the employees here and working a lot with them. I'd be remiss not to mention Don and our board staff. There's a lot of talented people, Jamie, others elected and employees. There's a lot of talent in this county, and I'm impressed by it. We've got a great team. So I will stay in touch. Most of you have my cell phone. I will pick it up. I might joke and tell you you'll never see me, but you will. I'll still be in it as involved as you like. But thanks again for the opportunity to serve. Be kind to one another and have a wonderful Christmas and holiday season. So it's been a pleasure to serve. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Oh, gosh.
Is there any public input? This is your opportunity. We've got 3 minutes.
Let him have it.
Seeing none, is there anyone online or Crystal or whoever?
I do. I just want to say thank you. I don't want to get emotional because it's very easy for me to get emotional. So a lot of times I don't like moments like this. But it was because of Aaron that, for me, it made this job very enjoyable. He is a person of fairness, and I've really grown to respect him very much. And I appreciate his explanations of things. It is in line with what I would be feeling but could not articulate, and I so appreciate his example in that. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
Thank you, Crystal. All right. Oh, we have someone?
Sorry, well, positive feedback about the recycling. We've had some positive feedback about the recycling dumpsters that were removed, and there's an overwhelming response of support for that decision because of the abuse that was previously taken, and so people are happy that the trash is gone.
All right, thank you.
Wonderful.
Wow.
Just wanted positive.
Hey, we're ending on positive. I like it. All right. Anyone else? Seeing none, your next meeting is going to be Tuesday, January 3, 2023, right here in the boardroom. And wish you all the best. Have a wonderful Christmas holiday season with your families. Be safe, and thank you again for your time.
All right, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Roll call, please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye, we're adjourned. Thank you.